camera right here is a Canon F1. It's from 1976. It's almost 50 years old. It has no autofocus, no image stabilisation, no way to check the images on the back screen. So you have no way of knowing if your shot came out any good until you get the film back from the lab. And it is one of the best things that ever happened to photography. Let me explain. About a year ago, I reached a point in digital photography where something just felt wrong. Technically perfect, the images were sharp, the focus was good, exposure was perfect, resolution more than enough that I need for anything delivered to clients. And that was the problem. No mistakes, no happy accidents, no moments where the images genuinely surprised me. Digital photography made me too comfortable. It's too safe. I was just not making decisions. I was just making corrections after the fact of checking the back of the camera. I wanted my photos to feel real. So I moved to film to try and chase that feeling. And film forced that. So I primarily shoot on two Canon F1s. These are professional bodies from an era where photography actually meant something. And professional photographer meant something, so they had professional tools. They were built to last, they're purely mechanical, and they're completely manual in every sense. For travel and everyday carry though, I use an Olympus OM1. As you can see, it is slightly smaller, it is a little bit lighter, but it is fully mechanical, it is fully manual, and it is just as bit intentional as these F1s, primarily in black and white. Kodak Tri-X 400 and HP5 are my go-to films. If I am shooting HP5, I will push it to 800 because I want that high contrast grainy look that gives me. If you take a look at these images feel like they have weight and texture rather than smooth clinical finish of a digital file. But when I am traveling, sometimes I do shoot color film. And for color film, I tend to use Kodak Ultramax 400 for that classic film look. Sometimes I do use Portra 400 when I want something a little more refined, and everything goes to take it easy lab for developing and scanning. And then I do minimal editing in post, just adjusting the blacks to match my preferences. So while we take a look at some of these shots, film has taught me a lot. But here is the part that I want to spend the most time on because this is the reason I'm still shooting film in 2026. It's made me a significantly better digital photographer. And I did not expect that. The first thing it taught me was aperture. I used to shoot wide open at 1.2 on digital lenses almost all the time. I thought that an obliterated background was always the goal. Film and the cost of every single frame on film forced me to think about whether wide open was actually serving the image or whether it was just defaulting to it. So stopping down at 2.8 or 4 on film gave me more depth, more context, and more of the world in the frame. And that is because of the way you need to expose these cameras. So when you expose these cameras, you are stuck into an ISO, what is your film stock. So the only thing you have to adjust is your shutter speed, which generally go up to 1/1000th or 1/2000th. If you are using a Nikon, some of those do go up higher. And some of the later cameras that came out in 2000s do go up to higher shutter speed. But on these classic cameras, you have your aperture and your shutter speed, and you are pretty much stuck into adjusting those to achieve a perfect exposure. So if I'm outside on a bright sunny day and I'm at ISO 800 and cannot drop that, and then I'm at 2000 of a shutter speed, the only thing I have left to achieve a correct exposure is aperture. And because of this, it actually taught me how to use aperture properly. And it makes my images just feel more real. I don't know if it's because we're so used to seeing wide open apertures all over social media, but when I look at old film photos, they have that look that just looks authentic. When I brought up thinking back to my digital work, the images started to feel more real and more considered as well. And as I've mentioned, the second thing that it taught me was shutter speed. It's not just a technical setting, but you can use it as a creative tool. Using motion blur intentionally to convey mood, letting a subject move slightly during a longer exposure to add energy to a frame. Digital had me freeze framing everything, and film taught me that some of the most interesting images live in the blur. But the most important thing film has taught me is that I needed to slow down. I do not rush shoots anymore. I do not fire for 10 frames and hope one of them works. I look at what is in front of me and make a decision about what I want the image to say, and then I take one frame, maybe two. That slowness has changed everything about how I approach a shoot. Digital or film, I'm no longer reacting, I'm just creating. Film photography in 2026 is not a nostalgia trip. And it's not about just being different for the sake of it. It's about the discipline that it forces and the rules that it teaches you. And these are lessons that no amount of YouTube tutorials could ever teach you. So if you've ever thought about shooting film, I highly recommend doing it. It will cost you a lot of money and it will cost you a lot of frustration. In some roles, they'll come back and be totally unusable. But every time you fail, you understand what caused you to fail more in depth. And when you finally do nail it, you'll understand why people have been shooting this way for hundreds of years. So if you enjoyed this video, give me a like, give me a subscribe, and see you guys in the next one.